Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'll be doing a Dungeons Weapons tier list. So here are the tiers: F tier, D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, and S tier. So by the way guys, I'll be doing comparison. Like, I wouldn't obviously compare something like a Hyperion to a Bonza Staff. So yeah, I'll just be showing you how good it is for a stage and for a particular stage. So yeah, let's get started with the first 9 weapons. Okay, so the first one is the Super Cleaver. Now the Super Cleaver here has 85 damage and 20 strength, and the item ability Cleave hits monsters in a 3-block range, and it's kind of like the regular Cleaver. It is pretty situational though. It is kind of bad, so I'm just gonna put it in the C tier or the D tier. I'm gonna say C tier because it's not as useless, because it's useful for clearing mobs as well. Next off is the Bonza Staff. Now the Bonza Staff is really cool for 4/7 cheese, and it's very good for 4/7 cheese, and also a useful mage weapon for 4/1. And the thing is though, you don't have to click your mouse unlike the Dreadlord Sword, like always. So yeah, that's technically that right there. Okay, but otherwise, the mana is kind of a lot, but yeah, honestly though, I think I'll put Bonza Staff in the A tier because, yeah, of its expensive mana. Dreadlord Sword is very useful for lower floors, but very soon on higher floors, it starts to pale out. B. The Zombie Soldier Cutlass is pretty decent for a sword because of its attack speed boost, and yeah, heals you for, and also it maximizes attack speed, and it heals you for 10 hearts when you hit an entity, which really makes up for the attack speed, which is really cool. So in addition to this, like the Dreadlord Sword, only useful in lower floors, but yeah, it's useful for such things as Berserkers. I'll put it in A tier because of its lifesteal. Next off is the Silent Death, which is supposed to be a rare drop from the Shadow Assassins. By the way, I forgot to mention where those drop. The Dreadlord Sword can be obtained from Crypt Dreadlords, and the Zombie Soldier Cutlass can be obtained from Zombie Soldiers. The Bonza Staff is obtained from 4/1 chests or Collection 4 of the Bonza Collection. Okay, the Silent Death rarely drops from Shadow Assassins, so the Shadow Step ability is cool for bomb defuse cheese. Unfortunately, it does have the Catacombs 20 requirement, making it pretty bad for damage. I have to be honest though. I'll put it in D tier because, actually I'll put it in C because of its usefulness in bomb defuse cheesing. And it's very good if you already have a summon mob already. The next is Conjuring, which I believe is pretty situational. So it reduces the cooldown of Guided Sheep for 5 seconds and provides the sheep from spawning randomly when holding this item. Well, I really don't get why it's necessary. Alright, the next is Adaptive Blade, which in my opinion is going to be our first F tier because it is going to be outclassed by other weapons such as Aspect of the Dragons, unfortunately. So I mean you'll actually have to be holding the Adaptive Blade to actually gain the stats. You gain 100 defense, and then for art, the Archer ability makes it worse, which is why I put it here. Alright, usually I would put the Crypt Witherlord Sword, but it's not in the game yet. Next, the Zombie Commander Whip. So for every 1 zombie kill during a dungeon, the weapon gives the user 1 strength. It's kind of like a Shredder, except for its lack of damage. I'll put it in the D tier. That's pretty much it. Alright, and then next off is Hyper Cleaver. So Hyper Cleaver I'm gonna put in the B tier because it's necessary for doing floor 4, and pretty much if you can lifesteal, it's going to be useful for livid fights and also terracottas as well. Oh, and also the Wither Miners as well, but you're more likely going to use a Giant Cleaver as well. But yeah, unfortunately though, the wiki doesn't have the Giant Cleaver, so I'm not going to put it there. Alright, so that's going to be it for the first wave of swords. Now heading on to the next wave. Okay, so the next weapon here is the Spirit Sword. So the Spirit Sword is decent for raw damage. It's decent, but it's heavily outclassed by others. It is 2 to 3 million coins. and you can only get him from, I think, Obsidian Chest probably, which I believe is pretty expensive. It is good for the floor it is good at though, so I'll put it in the B tier. Put it in B tier because it's rather outclassed by many other things. The next is the Zombie Knight Sword, which only goes well when paired with the Zombie Knight armor. It can drop from Zombie Knights, so honestly, pretty situational. D tier. Tier for me. Earth Shard is really cool. One of the best weapons for tanks. A tier because of how much defense it gives. Now, although Necromancer Sword gives similar defense, it's more expensive. However, though, Necromancer Sword can summon mobs as well, which is very useful. So Earth Shard is really good for gaining defense as well. You can get this from super heavy zombies, super tank zombies, or just, yeah. Alright, so next weapon here is the Spirit Scepter. So I believe Spirit Scepter is going to be another A tier because of its radius. Sure, it's kind of bad in, but I mean, it's really insane clearing weapon. The mana cost is a lot, so not quite S tier. The Ice Spray Wand is really useful, and I believe it is one must-have for clearing. I think any class in particular, even the Berserkers, S tier. Alright, the Livid Dagger is next weapon in this tier list. So the Livid Dagger maximizes both crit chance and attack speed as well. The throw ability really doesn't matter, but yeah, this is really cool. And even then, it still outclasses many of the swords. It literally outclasses many of the swords with its 100% crit chance. I mean, you don't need a crit chance setup anyway, so. And then it also maximizes attack speed as well, just like Zombie Soldier Cutlass. That's pretty much the case right there. That's why it's another S tier. The Shadow Fury is another weapon. So yeah, when paired with One For All, it can be a really good weapon. The ability Shadow Fury rapidly teleports to 5 enemies within 10 blocks, root engage them, and allowing you to hit them, which is pretty cool, I have to say, but it's A tier due to how expensive it is, and yeah. The next one on this list is the Fel Sword. So the Fel Sword is good for healing, I have to say. Sword is really good for healing. It's a rare drop. It can be crafted using 32 Fel Pearls and a stick, which Fel Pearls can rarely drop from Fels. Keep in mind it's not a guaranteed drop, so yeah. So yeah, the every 100 kills is not really important. And then the healer bonus reduces cooldown from healing circles. Really cool for healing, but I mean, it's not that great, so that's why I'm putting it here. The Flower of Truth is actually very good. S tier. For the Flower of Truth is actually pretty good. And yeah, I have to be honest though. Sure, it may keep getting nerfed, but yeah, it's come to the point where the ability is going to be really, really useful. And considering it's a 4/6 drop on Iron Man, it's going to be useful for those Iron Man players. So yeah, that's going to be wave 2. Now for our final wave. This next weapon is the Necromancer Sword. It rarely drops from 4/6, or you can get it from Satan 6 collection, aka 750 runs, I mean. So yeah, this sword can summon mobs, which is going to be very useful. The Raise Souls ability is pretty cool, especially for Enderman Slayer. So usually this sword would be, I'm going to put it up here, C tier, because of its lack of damage. And yeah, it's only useful for summoning, and it's pretty expensive, no lying, guys. Alright, the Giant Sword. The Giant Sword, though, is insane for damage, and I believe 500 damage. And when paired with One For All, it is going to be really good, outclassing the Shadow Fury amazingly. Amazing. And then, next off is the Wither Cloak Sword. The Wither Cloak Sword is another one of those swords. The Creeper Veil is useful for, I'll put it in D. So yeah, similarly, I'll put it in C, because similarly though, it is useful for, similarly useful for, the 4/7 phase 3 boss, whatever I call it, terminals, useful for the terminals, which is very useful in case you get knocked in lava, which I guess is why I didn't put it in the D tier. Alright, and now on to the 5 Necron Blades. So the raw Necron Blade is actually pretty terrible. It's actually pretty terrible unless you upgrade it, so that goes in the F tier. I mean, there's no use. No use, really. Even without the scrolls, there's really no use. The Hyperion is going to be useful for right click if you have the scrolls with it as well. So yeah, you deal each of the Necron blades deals 50% more damage to withers. And by the way, the Hyperion is the best for intelligence. The Astrea is best for defense. The Valkyrie is the best DPS weapon so far, especially Master Mode, and Skila is just the worst. So anyway guys, this is my tier list of how I rank the dungeon swords. So here's what I say. In F tier, we have the Adaptive Blade, Raw Necron Blade, and the Skila. D tier, we have the Conjuring, Zombie Commander Whip, and Zombie Knight Sword. In C tier, we have Super Cleaver, Silent Death, Necromancer Sword, and Wither Cloak Sword. In B tier, we have Dreadlord Sword, Hyper Cleaver, Spirit Sword, and Fel Sword. In A tier, we have Bonza Staff, Zombie Soldier Cutlass, Earth Shard, Spirit Scepter, and Shout of Fury. And then finally in S tier, which is ridiculously a lot, we have Ice Spray Wand, Livid Dagger, Flower of Truth, Giant Sword, Hyperion, Astrea, and the Valkyrie. So anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, third wave finally done. Okay, so like I said, thank you all guys for watching. If you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in another video. Bye.